Welcome, everybody. This is episode 50 of ZK Live. We've made it 50 episodes. I'm very excited. We have an awesome guest tonight, Eric Adams from Adams and Beasley. They're a very successful general contractor in the Boston area. I'm going to be bringing him on right away. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. Gosh, I got like a light over my head here.
That's all right. TV in the background.
There you go.
We're maybe stepping way to a professional show.
Hey, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yes, I'm a believer in that.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I've seen a few of these and really excited to be participating tonight. And I love your Instagram feed. It's always serving up some really thoughtful and cutting edge stuff. So thank you for thinking of me.
Absolutely. Well, you guys have quite the reputation, and I've worked for you on a project and on a tight ship, very impressive organization. So I'm interested to figure out how the heck you got here. What's the story like?
It's a pretty winding road, I'd say. If you want me to just jump in, building is something that has always fascinated me. As a child, I was always working, playing with Legos. They were, kind of my first building blocks. And I'm surrounded in my family, on both sides of my family, by architects and builders and craftspeople. So, at this point in my life, looking back, it's probably no surprise that I ended up where I did. It's really just the satisfaction that I get working with my hands, having a tangible product at the end of a hard day's work I've never felt more satisfied than that. And so I think for many, many years, it was really about building my own skills, and now really it's focused on building the best business we can to take care of our clients and our design partners and our subcontractors and vendors. And, if I were to boil it down to one word, it's just relationships. My mentor was an uncle of mine. So I guess Angus Beasley is my original business partner, a co-founder of Adams and Beasley. And he and I met in 8th grade at the Buckingham Brown and Nichols School in Cambridge. And even as 8th graders, we had pretty vast experience on job sites and as kind of budding carpenters. As I mentioned, we both had uncles who were builders, and that's who I learned the trade from. My uncle ran a very small company based out of Stowe, Massachusetts, and I learned, I started sweeping job sites for him when I was 12, and just was enthralled with the smell of fresh cut framing and paint and floor finish and concrete and, all the kind of olfactory senses that were awakened in that, in the experience of house building. So working for him during summer vacations and school vacations, and gave me kind of the building blocks, to develop my own skills and knowledge and understanding as a carpenter and what goes into residential construction. And I feel so fortunate to have had a mentor like that who taught me everything from how to form footings, pour stem walls, frame, do finish work, and, everything in between. So it really was the amazing foundation upon which I built my career. And, he's an amazing man, thoughtful, caring, generous. And so I couldn't help but kind of absorb those traits, whether consciously or subconsciously, as a business owner, um, and have tried my best, Angus and I both, to kind of infuse those into the business we have today, which is just such a source of pride for us, and constantly just amazed at how we've been able to get to where we are. It's certainly ton of hard work, a lot of hours, and today we really try to differentiate between working on the business and working in the business. And I think as a business owner, the greatest kind of maturation that we've experienced in the last 5 years in particular is really our ability to work on the business, and attract, retain, and promote such amazing people. I'm very limited, despite what I just said. My skills as a carpenter and a builder are limited compared to the amazing breadth of experience and dedication and knowledge that our team has. It's just a phenomenal to kind of look back. We often use a metaphor of, mountain climbing, in a way where, when you're climbing a mountain, you're always focused on what's ahead of you. It's almost like you have blinders on, and it's just one foot in front of the other. And, there's obstacles, and there's bad weather, and there's wild animals, and all those things that can get in your way and be obstacles. But really such an important part of, I think it's a metaphor for life too, is being able to stop and turn around and look down the mountainside from whence you've come, and kind of see the progress you've made. And so that's something that we try to do, and really try to share that energy with our team.
What does your team look like?
So right now, we're a 53-person company, which, as Angus says, we started this with a cargo van and a hammer. That's pretty humble beginnings. I'd say we like to think one of the defining characteristics of our team is this dedication to the craft of home building. While we have amazing project management teams and processes, the focus of our passion as an organization is the craft of carpentry, cabinet making, and home building. So we have a large staff of carpenters. We have our own millwork shop, which has 5 full-time people in there, right on the Concord-Acton border or line. I typically say we produce around 25% of all the cabinetry and millwork that we install. About 25% is coming from our shop, because we don't have the size or capacity in our millwork shop to do everything that we build. And certainly it wouldn't be appropriate for that level of detail or finish to go into every room and every project, although maybe at some point that'll be easier for us. So I think for us, there's really pride around the fact that we're not just construction managers. We're not just managing projects, but we have a robust and deep bench, as we say, to do in-house carpentry and construction at the highest levels, best practices, highest quality materials, built to last. I think, piggybacked onto that is the fact that no 2 projects we do are in any way similar, because they are a true reflection of the personality and taste of our clients. And I know that's a little bit trite, but it's really the truth. Our clients want something that's a reflection of their lives and their personality. That's we're excited to be able to listen and digest that and come back to them in close collaboration with our design partners to make that a reality. So that's kind of the ethos, I guess you'd say, the ethos of craft. What else does it look like? It's a pretty diverse group. We're very proud of the women that we have on our team. It's certainly a source of pride for me and for Angus and all of us, especially in a predominantly male-dominated industry. I actually was just posting a comment on Instagram a few hours ago about one of our project managers who I think is watching right now, Sonia, who she is a tenacious, amazingly skilled project manager. And I guess growing up for me, there weren't many women in the construction environments that I built in. And I'm not sure at the time I really recognized that, to be totally honest. I knew that most of our primary clients were women, and many of the design and architect partners back when I worked with my uncle were women. But I wasn't, I was too focused, honestly, on myself and developing my own skills to really be thinking zoomed out in a way that was something I was really conscious of. But now as a business owner, it's hugely important to us. And honestly, I think it's a differentiator for us to have women in every aspect of our business, both in the field as well as kind of in our project management teams and in our office. Because A, they should be, that's just a given, but B, there's a benefit that all of our stakeholders derive from a variety of perspectives. And so I'd say that's certainly something that was a conscious effort for us and something that we're proud of.
Yeah, it's funny. It's obvious, but may not have always. I think there's a lot of people maybe. Obviously, women are awesome. Men are like gender doesn't determine whether you're good at building. And so if you want people, it's not a surprise that you would have. But I was growing up, the industry, a lot of women. We have a few on our team, and it's just like we're looking for great people, and it's not a surprise to me that women are part of that because they're just as competent as men.
I'd argue in most situations more. So that's something that we found out as I don't know, I guess as we went to a certain extent.
Right, because I didn't grow up, I didn't paint women, and so it's just like, but obviously once you see it happen one time, like of course, of course.
Yeah, I know, and it's amazing to me, and I feel somewhat ashamed that it's taken this long to have that level of consciousness. But I also want to kind of celebrate where we are, and obviously the future is bright and wide open, and something that we're committed to, and as you said, just is logical. We're proud and excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Someone saying, I guess can you hear me okay?
You are cutting out a little bit here and there.
Oh man. This is the joys of live.
I know.
I'm doing everything exactly the same. I always do it. So I don't know. what's going on. But we'll just let you keep talking, and then I don't. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay, so you started out, you and Angus. Can you talk to me a little bit about the growth and progression and how you get to 50?
Sure. So for us, it was pretty much demand driven. And by that, I mean we sold a couple of projects that we couldn't do on our own. So we obviously needed help. And we were fortunate enough kind of through these times to find some great people and hire them on and kind of organically grow the business. This started around 2004 or 5. And then it just kind of continued, I would say, up until right before the Great Recession in 2000. And my memory is terrible, so I'm just going to, there's an asterisk next to all these years. But I think it was around 2008, right before kind of the big fall in the market. And we had been really fortunate to, at that point, I think we were around a dozen people. And we were really fortunate to sign up 2 pretty large contracts. And there was no, as a salesperson and a business owner, as I'm sure you can appreciate, there was no way I was going to say no to either of these projects. They were just too sweet. And both in one in Beacon Hill and one right over the kind of in Back Bay, only about, a stone's throw from the first. And so Angus actually has an older brother, Nick Beasley, who at the time was running his own general contracting, high-end residential general contracting business, and had 7 or 8 employees. And so Angus called on Nick and said, "Hey, we need some help. We got these 2 great projects. We can't do them on our own. Would you be available to bring your crews and yourself and come help us?" And so fortunately the timing kind of worked out. And so he came over and about a year later, when those jobs were starting to wind down, it was clear that his guys and our guys, at the time, mostly men, got along well and worked well together and had similar interest in quality and approach to the work. So, we had a conversation saying, look, let's join forces here. Nick is an amazing, so fast forward, Nick works for us, and all those guys came on board back in 2009, 10-ish. And Nick said, look, I don't love doing the sales stuff and all of the, project accounting and corporate accounting and stuff like that. His passion really is around construction, and he's an amazingly skilled, knowledgeable, and talented builder. Similarly for me, that first 6 or so years in business I had been doing primarily all the sales and estimating and spreadsheets and all that stuff. And despite my vast limitations in that, I really enjoyed that work. And so we kind of had these organic roles that kind of came out of that original, or that kind of evolving structure. And then we basically just we were super fortunate continuing to leave great projects behind us and happy clients, and were able to sell more projects and needed more people. And so our hiring strategy from day one has always been to lean on the people that we know and love as employees, to refer people that they know and love. That's I think the short way to get great people. When you already have great people on board, they usually, I always think that, people like being with people like themselves. So if you have great people, they're usually attracted to and have friends of, other great people. And so that's kind of how this has just evolved for us. And so just kind of continued steady growth through the recession. Again, just so fortunate, and working really hard. And all the while we really rely heavily on outside consultants. There's a particularly Angus and I from day one have always talked about and been very kind of conscious of this balance between ambition and hubris, and particularly as it pertains to growing and developing our business. We're both very competitive people. He and I always tell people I'm like 5'9.5" on a good day, and he's like 6'3" or something. When we first met, I was bigger than he was. So I always since we're talking to lots of people here, I want to just make sure that's clear. And believe it or not, we were our primary sport in high school was wrestling, and our team, our freshman year in high school was not the greatest team, but our goal after our freshman season was by our senior year to have a championship team. And certainly not up to us, but we really worked as hard as we could to do everything we could to surround ourselves with great people. And we recruited some unlikely folks from our class, or from the school rather. And the end of our senior wrestling year, we ended up as independent school league champions in wrestling. And he and I both won our weight classes, and we were able to kind of lead our team to victory. And that experience for 4 years in high school continues to inform how we run our business today. And it sounds a little bit strange, I think, but there's something around the core values of winning as a team, where you're putting, again, kind of another trite concept, but elevating everybody around you to reach their best, and to push them. I'm just looking at the comments down there. Yeah, I ended up having to drop 2 weight classes my senior year. Dropped like 18 pounds, getting down to 152, which was a stretch. Angus wrestled 189, which he always had to eat more, which was, I was like an emaciated frame. I'll still hold that against him, but we made it happen. So anyway, that informs our business today. It's kind of shared sacrifice, really hard work against some pretty difficult odds, and adjusting to our opponents. And so having a common set of values in a team, our values as a company at Adams and Beasley are obviously different than our wrestling team, but there are some overlapping things there. But it was really the first time that I had an experience that setting clear goals, articulating them, sharing them with the group, getting buy-in from the group, really allows you to, gives you the best shot of achieving them. And that's something that we still, literally every day at Adams and Beasley, we engage in an effort to run a very grassroots organization. Our hierarchy doesn't really exist. Angus, with the help of our amazingly talented new creative director, in-house creative director, have just come up with this image, which we call the Adams and Beasley Mighty Oak. And it's really a representation of how we perceive our organizational chart, where we have almost equal value to what we call the internal customer, all of our employees and our team, and our external customers, which are our design collaborators and our clients. And everyone needs nutrients, and everyone needs communication, and everyone needs to feel cared for and contributing and valued. And so that's kind of really the backbone of the culture of our company. And I think for many years, we belonged to various networking groups. And, I think a lot of people, especially in this industry, were like, you guys are total whack jobs for spending so much time talking about values and culture and the vision and, these metaphors around climbing mountains. And, another one we always say is Valhalla is always on the horizon. It's this concept that arrival is a myth. When you arrive, you're some people say that's your death. Other people just say it's complacency. But really for us, it's about this striving to always improve, to always learn the next thing that will improve who you are as a person and a human and a contributor to society, as well as to your business and to the, what you do for your team. So I'd say we have a very strong culture at Adams and Beasley. And that too was a conscious effort on our parts to help develop and continue to hold strong to. It's not easy. Entropy is a really strong force. And every hour there's something trying to put a chink in your armor and to kind of knock you down. But, I think living an authentic life and living true to the values is kind of the buttress. It's the thing that keeps our arms around each other. So I feel like I'm just rambling now, but.
Now, am I correct? I thought I heard that sort of an open book accounting with your company. Everyone within the company knows the company. Is that right?
Yep. So for the last, I think we're coming up on 3.5 years or so. I'd say again, this falls under the umbrella of trying to there's not many ways that you can retain really smart, talented, driven people. And I'd say one of my biggest fears as a business owner is to lose somebody on our team because they're irreplaceable. So through the years, Angus and I always brainstorm, like, how can we continue to retain and promote and compensate our staff in a way that will be different from what they could get either going off on their own or, going to a bigger, better company. Right. And so one of the things that we engaged a consultant who's amazing, Bill Foch, Open Book Coaching, just a little shout out there. He's actually based in Kentucky, I think, the Midwest. But he helped us develop a system whereby we held regular financial literacy kind of trainings as part of some of our quarterly all company meetings to start to help people understand and teach what the numbers of a business are. And quite frankly, I didn't know anything about business. I was a hardworking carpenter when I started the business with Angus, and that's about the long and short of my business savvy. And we've spent many years and many dollars learning, and we still have a long way to go for sure. But I feel like, especially in this industry, I think there's probably a pretty consistent lack of understanding about business accounting and how to run a profitable business. So for us, again, kind of combining financial literacy with this kind of incentive program around what you call open book management, which is, basically we do share all the numbers with everyone in the company. So at we have quarterly all company meetings. And part of our templated meeting agenda is to go over our sales and our overhead expenses and our profit margins. And it's really kind of cascaded down to weekly meetings with each team are looking at specific metrics for the success as defined by that team, which ultimately collectively kind of roll up to the success of the company. And so, in a nutshell, when people can feel like they can impact the bottom line, they do. And so this is kind of an ongoing effort for us, which ultimately results in a profit sharing program. We always struggled with bonuses, which for many years was like, I would run to the bank before the day of the Christmas party and like take out a bunch of cash and then try to like hand out cash to people. And we ended up always kind of like giving people basically the same amount of cash for many years because we thought that was fair. And then we're like, oh, it's not really fair. Maybe we gave people some cash according to what their pay rate was in kind of similar proportions. And that just didn't seem right either. And so we've really discovered this really profound difference between a bonus and our profit share. And the profit share is really about obviously sharing the profits of the company, whereas a bonus can seem kind of arbitrary and I think less meaningful. Again, team-centered organization. We want everyone to be kind of incented to work at a high level and to contribute to the success of the team. And when that happens, everyone gets rewarded. This year's is not a great year for the profit share, given that we basically, we shut down for 3 months for COVID. And we were very fortunate to apply for and receive a PPP loan, which enabled us to keep everyone fully employed. We didn't lay anyone off, which again, as I said a few minutes ago, would have been that's kind of my worst nightmare. Something that is certainly a driver for me on a daily basis at this point, to continue to successfully sell new projects and good projects and continue to exceed expectations for our clients and design collaborators. Where was I?
So going into COVID,
right.
Obviously that was a stressful time for anyone in the country, especially people in the trade, especially the city of Boston. The towers all shut down. You had a company meeting to sort of talk to everybody, right?
We did.
I've been stalking you guys. No, I really admire the way you've been able to build your culture. So anytime I can pick anybody's brain about what's happening at Adams and Beasley, I'm listening. So I know that you had a meeting before COVID.
So our first reaction was panic, and then we took some deep breaths and we said, okay, how can we make the most of this scenario? And again, I'd say our two driving forces here back in March were, how can we keep everyone employed and taking care of themselves and their families, and how can we utilize this downtime where many of our jobs were shut down. The mandate where, as you said, the building said no more construction. We had a handful of projects that we technically could have continued on, but we felt in the best interest and the best health of our employees and their families that we were just going to take the safe road and just shut everything down until we really could kind of understand what was going on with COVID. So I don't remember the exact date, but it was somewhere in mid-March when that happened. And basically what we did is, as you said, we convened an all-company Zoom meeting, and we initiated what we called Project Lemonade, which was, basically how can we make lemonade from the lemons that we were just dealt. And we took a week, and we had everyone split up into the kind of the branches of the business that they were in, whether that's production or finance or marketing or sales or whatever, design, and come up with a list. So I think we had this meeting on a Monday or a Tuesday. By Friday, we were going to reconvene and go over the lists of tasks that people could do remotely that were basically, I would say, process improvements, things that we never had, we always wanted to do, that we had articulated needed to get done at some point, but could never prioritize because we were just too busy doing the work of the business, right? In the business, not on the business. So this was kind of this amazingly profound forced work on the business, which was this, amazing shift. And in retrospect, in some ways, I'd say a gift to give us the time to do this. So we ended up with over 100 different ideas and kind of tasks that ranged from, we're just in the process of rolling out a new software platform that one of our amazing team members, Justin Babcock, has really been focusing the majority of his time for over a year working with Smartsheets to develop a custom database-centric project management and cost tracking tool. So he and a couple other people were focused on that. We had some guys in our shop which were taking inventory of tools and materials and equipment in our storage unit, which just tends to, as you probably know, just like accumulate. Every time a project ends, you end up with maybe you don't, but we end up with toilets and all kinds of crazy stuff that, I'm too frugal to say, that's, get rid of that. And kind of everything in between. So we spent 3 months really with basically the team. There was some work we could continue to do from an administrative standpoint on active projects, but that was relatively limited. So really the majority of our time was spent taking care of our family first. Family's always first at ABA. So the start of every meeting we had was take care of yourself first so that you can take care of your family second. And, the business comes last. So that was, it was a very tumultuous time for everybody. People were home from school, obviously, and there's just all this uncertainty and anxiety. And so making sure that everyone was really felt as comfortable as they could feel was super important to us. And I think that really, again, consistent with our values and a conscious decision on our part. And what we found was just unbelievable. Project Lemonade yielded the most amazing results. People working at night, early in the morning, lunchtime between classes with their kids, if that was their situation. And so just amazingly humbling how dedicated people were to making these improvements to our business. And then, the PPP loan was I was going to say it was a gift. It's not a gift, but in many ways it felt like one. Substantial sum of money for the size team that we have. We actually, I think yesterday, just finished our paperwork and application for the forgiveness, which I'm, got my fingers crossed on that one. But it's again, turning around, looking back down the last 6 months, if you will, I'm not surprised that people were so focused on helping because they're really helping themselves, you know, and that's the most, I'd say, prideful and inspiring and humbling aspect of having a team that we have is that I feel like we've reached some degree of this kind of flywheel effect, or what some people might call a positive feedback loop, where you know, people want to work hard, they want to be their best, they want to, you know, against some pretty discriminating customers and collaboration partners, and yet, you know, every day that's what we do. And you know, whether you're a junior carpenter just learning, and you know, or anyone in the business, you know, I think people are without exception driven to work hard and succeed and learn and grow and mature and get better. And you know, that flywheel really takes on inertia of its own, which is, it's just amazing to me. I never could have, even if you had told me that, you know, 10 years ago, I never would have, I couldn't understand it. I couldn't comprehend what that was like. And still to, you know, every day I'm you know, I'm humbled. The next 3 days, we have planning for 2021. Tomorrow I'm doing a full day kind of offsite at our office, since no one else is there, with our other salesperson and our lead estimator, the three of us. And we're just going to, we have a specific agenda and structure that's based on this philosophy called EOS, which stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. So we're going to follow that for a day to kind of help plan for 2021, what we want to do, what our biggest opportunities and weaknesses and strengths and threats are, and set the goal for that group, you know, our sales and estimating group. And then Thursday, Friday, and Monday, our leadership team, which is 6 of us, we'll kind of do the same thing at the corporate level, which is normally we actually go somewhere, get away from the business, which I find to be for those of you who don't make time to get away from, I mean, this sounds a little bit weird, but get away from your family, get away from your day to day. It's much more effective from a planning standpoint. And you know, generating consensus, aligning on our most important priorities, and then kind of developing to-dos and commitments around how we're going to achieve those things on a quarter-by-quarter basis, has been an amazing structure for us to exceed our goals, quite frankly. So I'm really hopeful that this news we heard, I think today, from Pfizer and, you know, Eli Lilly about these potential vaccines obviously comes to fruition for everyone's sake around the world, and that 2021 allows us to, you know, regain some sense of normalcy in our lives, so that, you know, we can, I don't think put this past us, I'm not sure is the right thing, because I think there's some amazing lessons learned that we need to hold on to from this pandemic. It doesn't seem like it's going to go away. There's something else that's going to come along, you know, and I think we need to be prepared for that. But certainly turn the page, shall we say?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. You know, you kind of have two ways of attacking or approaching a problem like COVID, and like you can like shrink into your little hole, feel sorry for yourself, which I'm sure we've all done that for a few minutes or days, hours, and that's fine. But then it's like, well, what are we going to do about this? You know, I love hearing the way you guys like you got fitter now, you know.
So this consultant that we work with was saying how it's so interesting how some companies' first reaction was like, lay everyone off or furlough everybody and, circle the wagons and, like you were saying, like, get down in the bunker. And he was saying, there's this analogy he was using about how, when back in the day on some big farm out in the Midwest, right? When a hurricane comes and wipes something out, people's first reaction after the hurricane is not to say, well, Grandma, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to fire you. You're gonna have to go find somewhere else to live, right? No, you bring your family together and you go clear the back 40 because that's what you have to do, and that's how you kind of get better. That's how you grow and learn through a bad experience. And so I guess this kind of, I didn't mention this before, but along with our kind of financial literacy training for our team, as well as the open book management and profit sharing, is this kind of gauge that we've developed called the total employment calculator. And basically what that means is we realize that for most people, job security is among the highest priorities for people to feel safe and secure in their job, right? If you work for a company whose leadership is unclear, or where you think that your job security is at risk, you're much more likely to leave or to be concerned or to have anxiety that causes a number of different issues with regard to your performance at work, right? Maybe you're distracted, maybe you take more sick days, maybe you don't kind of maximize your productivity in a given day or month or whatever, right? So what we've done is we've developed a very sophisticated forecasting tool where we use our, and this is something, again, we share with the company every week, basically the amount of money we have in, backlog. So all of the dollars of signed contracts that we have at any given moment, that's always kind of coming down, right? Because you're always completing work. And so the value of those contracts is always kind of declining. But the second part of that is a weighted sales pipeline. So all the new opportunities that are coming in the door, we attribute a likelihood of mobilizing on every single one of them. And we put a projected start and end date with each one and a estimated project value on it. So you can basically multiply the value times the likelihood of mobilizing, plot it on a future kind of calendar for the potential start and end date. And this is all, it's not super accurate, but it's a really strong tool. We're getting better and better at it. So you add those dollars to the dollars you have in backlog, and that projected over time shows you what your forecast is. So by doing that, we're able to develop this tool we call the total employment calculator, which basically says at this amount of backlog and forecasted revenue, everyone in the business has this many months of full employment. And, we don't have a large enough data set because pre-COVID, we switched over to the Smart Sheets tool we were basically doing everything in Google apps before. And we're still kind of we've been flying blind for a few months now. But it's emerging. And so we're able to kind of help people feel secure in their jobs, which helps them feel secure on a day-to-day basis. And, combining all these things together, the culture, the profit share, the financial literacy, the total employment calculator. We just started this thing called the Culture Club, where we've got, people other than the leadership team organizing activities. We try to have fun together. Angus has the saying, he always says, companies that play together stay together. So, we try to do all these things so that we can share in each other's joy and help each other out when we need to, and play.
That's awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about your sales process as the sales guy?
I can tell you a little bit. No.
Yeah, you know,
What do you want? What do you?
I mean, so obviously you're selling unbelievable projects to very discerning clients who have a number of options to spend their large amounts of money with, like, with other people. So what does it look like? You know, I do a similar thing, not to the scale, but you know, I'm trying to sell people something that, you know, we're usually the most expensive, and we're trying to sell value, and that whole process is, you know, it's fairly in depth to try to communicate to get people to not just decide the price. What any insight into your sales process? I'm interested to hear.
So 3 words kind of come to mind: relationships, trust, and reputation. Um, I I tell people one of the things I say to people all the time, and I sincerely mean it, is this project that we're talking about today, very important to me. But the more important thing to me is that we can develop a long-term relationship. Because for us, the majority of our work comes through repeat clients and referrals from our clients and our design collaborators, architects and interior designers, and growing portion of real estate professionals as well. Um, and so we actually perceive, and we talk about this with everyone on the team, that we have multiple clients for every project. We have our homeowner client, we have our, architect client, our sometimes, especially in the city, we have, if we're working in a building, the building is a client of ours. And so having that mindset that we're accountable to set high expectations and do our best to exceed those for all these people, through basically what comes down to in my mind is care. It's genuine care. We had a recent incident at one of the buildings in Boston where we had a HVAC installation kind of go sideways on us, and caused a little bit of a water leak, which stained the carpet in the master bedroom of this unit. And it was very concerning for the client. And, we're still trying to figure out the whole insurance thing, which is, I don't really feel like talking about that part of it, but we got rid of the carpet. We're ordering a new carpet. It was an unbelievably expensive endeavor, but we paid for it because that is our commitment to our clients and to what we do. And we know that by taking care of this situation as quickly as possible, that ultimately that actually leads to a good story down the road. So I guess I'll jump into this other story. We did, Angus and I, this was a long time ago. I'm going to say this was maybe 2006. We were doing phase 2 of a project in a penthouse on Com Ave. And when we first did phase 1, I think the client was a little bit skeptical of our ability. At that time, we were a much smaller company, not yet tested and battle tested, shall we say. We didn't have a reputation necessarily to lean on that was all that extensive. But through the process, we made the client a believer and a talker for us. And we came back to do phase 2, and this woman and her husband lived, we still refer to them as like, there was not a skin cell on the floor anywhere. This was the cleanest, most unbelievably pristine unit. We never believed they actually lived there, but they did. We came back to do some roof deck replacement for them. And the very last day of this project, one of our subcontractors, who was a sheet metal subcontractor, was doing some exterior copper wall panels. And it had, the forecast in the morning was good, but it started to deteriorate. And by the end of the day, they had strung up a tarp and tied it off to a chimney that was on this porch and 2 points kind of on the edge of the building so they could keep doing this install without getting wet. I got a call from the client like 3 o'clock in the afternoon saying, Eric, my neighbor down in the basement said he heard some loud noises and he's freaking out, and what's going on? And I said, I don't know. I'm not there. Let me call and find out. So come to find out, the tarp that these people had strung up had collected so much water that it actually pulled the top of the chimney down onto the brand new deck, and it shook the building. And Angus and I and other people were like, panicked. Fortunately, no one was hurt. That was obviously the first most important thing. But I was so concerned about the reaction that this client was going to have. And I called her and I told her everything we knew. And she said, okay, I know you guys are going to take care of it. Just let me know how things are going. And we call that the gymnastrophe story. And we still kind of refer to that because it was really an amazing demonstration to me that when you earn someone's trust based on hard work and honesty and integrity, there's not many things that you can't overcome, So going back to my sales strategy, that's what I seek to do with people. It's not complicated. I listen to what they want. I try to tell them that, this is about a chemistry. This is about a relationship. There's we're so fortunate in Boston to have so many amazing builders and contractors. So we're not the right fit for everybody, and there's part of me that kind of, sheds a tear when we get the no. But that's just the reality. So the people that say yes are people that care about our values, that share our desire to be thoughtful and to kind of that this is it's a dance, right? We liken it to a piece of music. There's a conductor and a composer and the musicians and the audience, and everyone has a part to play. And so if you can do all those things with great people who care about what they're doing, and everyone's kind of aligned on what the goals for the project are, that makes for a great sale, and an easy sale, quite frankly. The biggest thing that I'm always kind of, chirping about is what I call the commodification of builders, where we're bidding against, 2 or 3 other skilled companies. And it ultimately, I'm probably going to get struck down with a bolt of lightning in here, but I think I call it a race to the bottom, because it's not about the things that make the project great. And we're fortunate to kind of, for the most part, cater to a segment of the population who has the resources to invest in their happiness, quite frankly, and their enjoyment and their appreciation of a well-crafted space. And so I think from my experience, our competitors are all similarly priced. If we have the same information and we are putting the same level of effort and thoughtfulness into our estimating process, I think we're all within 5 or 10% of each other. And I think that variation is probably a derivative of who just wants it more or needs it more and is willing to kind of take a hit on their profitability to some extent. So for me, it's about listening. It's about selling people what they want to buy. I tell people all the time, I want to meet you where you are. I don't want to try to upsell you or, the size of your project. If you're spending $500,000 or $2 million, like for me, the incremental additional profitability on getting it a little bit higher doesn't make sense to me. That's not where the long-term relationship is. So it's very much kind of a, uh, I see myself as a shepherd, which sounds a little silly, but that's really what I want to do. I want to help people at the beginning to see what they can do, what's feasible, what's realistic, both from a time and money standpoint, in an honest and kind of clear way. And then if they like what they hear, then obviously we can move forward. We do. I saw one of the questions here on the stream. We do bid. Certainly not our preferred. We prefer a no bid situation. But honestly, we don't. Our pricing is no different. I mean, some people. I've had people say, "Oh, well, we're in Back Bay, so can you give us the non Back Bay price?" And I'm like, "There's only one price. It's our price." We don't have levers that we pull to kind of try to tweak profitability based on location or type of project, because for us that's just not that doesn't lead to long-term success, we don't think. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but that's just kind of that's how we look at it. So what else can I tell you? I think the other thing that I actually enjoy about sales is that I grew up building. I love building. I have a lot of knowledge around residential construction. And so I love geeking out in front of clients, I like kind of like putting my ear to the floor and like tapping around and listening to what the structure has to say. And to the trained ear and eye, you can ascertain a lot of information that may not be evident to a lot of people. And so this kind of earnest desire I have to help people and to make their lives better, I think comes across in my pitch, if you want to call it that. But the transformations are exciting, and they're I feel so lucky to be able to be part of some amazing transformations that the people. I mean, not to be hyperbolic, but I think sometimes do change people's lives.
It's amazing. So that covers the sales stuff. What about marketing? What is marketing for your company today?
Can you say that again? You broke up a little bit.
Marketing. Can you talk to me a little bit about your marketing strategy? What do you guys do for marketing? How important is it?
So I've only recently come to realize the power of marketing. I used to think that, Angus and I would say, like, we leave no bad hamburgers behind us, right? It's kind of this McDonald's philosophy, which is like, you have to deliver quality every single time because you're only as good as your last project. So if there's a shitty hamburger out there, excuse my French, that's gonna be the most detrimental thing to both your reputation and your ability to sell and market yourself moving forward. So now we've recently hired an amazing, just unbelievably amazing marketing consultancy called Creatively. Happy to share their contact information with anybody. Two women who come from the retail brand world, and they actually helped link us up with Andy Riley, who's our now, he started the week before we shut down for COVID. Talk about bad timing in that context. But he is just a singularly talented, creative mind and unbelievable talent with regard to graphic design and composition and everything from ad layouts to, social media and so forth. So we're kind of, I would say, still in our infancy from a marketing standpoint. My previous strategy was like, spend a ton of money, try to get into the magazines as much as possible, and one day be on NPR. Like that was basically like the the complete strategy. Um, but it's really, for us now, we're trying to. So we have a new thing that we're calling the marketing of magnanimity, which is basically help enough people get what they want, and you'll get what you want. So much like what you're doing right now, which I really appreciate, is letting other people tell their story, letting other people share what's important to them, how they got to where they are, what their goals and aspirations are in life, and helping to amplify that to the world. And in so doing, build that trust and that relationship with someone so that when there is an opportunity in the future, there's a greater likelihood that there's, a collaboration can be easily had. I think I think you're doing an amazing job at that. Really, I've been looking at you actually as a kind of a very successful in that, and I would say that this is part of that same kind of philosophy.
Yeah. I do it exactly what you described. The reason why, right? At the end of the day, it's for my company to do better for my people, right? But the way my philosophy is just like add way more value than I extract, and keep adding more and more value, and you'll be able to extract more.
Yeah. And so 100%. So I think that there's, for us, I'd say one of the more complicated aspects is we want our branding and our marketing to be a very specific and clear reflection of our brand. And so until Andy came along and we hired creatively, we were kind of flailing around, and we were having difficulty